Good evening. Tonight, not just I have problems, we all have problems. First, there's a man with a problem about his house. And then you're bound to have a problem about Canada Pension. And what else have I got problems about? Tomorrow's Cold Turkey Day. Isn't that disgusting? First, here's Ted with the rundown.
Vancouverites are breathing easier thanks to the bylaw prohibiting smoking in the workplace. Will other communities be quick to follow? Webster talks with Geoff Rolands, director of the Burrard Health Unit, on the success of the bylaw. Since January 1st, you can retire and collect Canada Pension at age 60, but you won't get it all. And you can save more on your taxes by putting away more for retirement. In the studio with Webster, Doug Runchey, Client Service Manager for Canada Pension. But first, the city says Jim Wilson will have to gut his attic to make his $300,000 home conform. But Wilson says he's willing to fight City Hall. Webster gets a reaction on the subject from Vancouver alderman Carole Taylor.
Carole Taylor is with me tonight, and we're going to look at a little walkabout I did in the house of Jim Wilson on West 24th Avenue and see what he says of his problem. I'm standing outside 3253 West 24th in Vancouver. Another of these hassles which seem to surround us. You know all about the giant houses built beside the little houses which are perfectly legal. And you know about the scores of illegal suites, if not thousands of illegal suites in the lower mainland, including in Vancouver. Nobody does anything about them unless it's a complaint. But this is different. This man here put in an elevator and he transformed his attic into living space. And that's a no-no because of floor space ratio. Let's go meet him. Come on out this way, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, Mr. Burchett.
Pleased to meet you. I want to come in and see what offences you have committed.
This is my wife, Margaret.
Margaret?
Nice to meet you.
Now, where shall we start? Your offence is that you have exceeded the floor space ratio for living accommodation.
That's correct.
What, did you dig out your 4-foot crawl space and put in a basement?
I have a crawl space, but no, I haven't.
What did you do?
I put a stairway to the attic, and I've made use of the attic space that has been approved.
Made use of the attic space, which has been approved, but not as living accommodation.
No, that I've approved the attic space.
Now let's go see your elevator. That's what intrigued me.
Certainly.
This is the elevator. Now, why did you put in this elevator?
Well, I have a long-term commitment here. I've lived here for 20 years. I expect to live here for the next 50. I'm in good shape now, but who knows 20 years down the road. As it happens, my in-laws do have a need for this, and it has become of greater value than we anticipated.
In other words, your father-in-law comes here from White Rock for treatment.
That's correct.
And so you put in the elevator right up to the attic?
Yes, we extended it to the attic.
Right through to the attic?
Yes.
Is that legal?
As far as I know it is. I haven't asked for a
No complaints about the attic?
There's no complaint as far as I know about the elevator.
Let's go up and see what you've done that's bad, according to the city, by using the elevator. 2 people only, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you press the button and I'll close the door and you stay out. Now, we've stopped at the 2nd floor, haven't we?
That's correct.
Although the elevator goes to the 3rd floor. Can I ask you what that cost to put in?
About $12,000.
And the old house which you've lived in for 20 years, you tore down?
We took it down completely.
And built this lovely new house with, without the attic. What's the accommodation?
It's about 2,800 square feet.
20 without the attic?
That's correct.
All right, now we'll go up to where you're in trouble.
That's right.
Before, in the old house, did you have access to the attic?
Yes, there was a closet right here, and there was a manhole. You could gain access to the attic.
The old ladder business.
Yes, it seemed quite okay to access the attic by means of a ladder.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, well, if a ladder's all right, what's wrong with the stair?
Yeah, but you didn't tell City Hall when you gave them the plans for the new house that you were going to, you rebuilt the whole house.
Yes.
Right down to the foundation.
That's correct.
You didn't tell them you were going to put in stairs up and turn it into guest living space.
I hadn't any plans to do that at that time.
But when you did it, it wasn't on your plans.
That's correct.
Okay, let's go up and see what you've done. I'll go first.
This is our approved attic space,
How much space is in the attic?
about 750 square feet.
Including space for a bit of a pool table.
Yes?
Pool table. And tell me, did you put in these windows?
Yes, I did.
If City Hall wins and says that you have broken the law by exceeding your floor space ratio, what would you have to do to these windows?
It's my understanding that I have to remove them.
But have you gone over the proper height for this house?
No.
You haven't?
No.
No, I don't think they'd make you remove them, would they?
That's my understanding. The letters that I have tell me that I must return this attic space to its original condition of an attic.
Of an attic. On your new plans, that was?
That's correct.
And your new plans merely showed space?
That's correct.
Didn't show any bedroom accommodation, didn't show any water or toilet facilities?
That's correct.
Well, let's go and see your, this is a dormer window? It's a pretty big window for a dormer window, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, how did you get into all this trouble? I mean, successful businessman like yourself, how much did this house cost you when you rebuilt the whole thing?
Finished and furnished, it was about $325,000.
Well, that's a lot of money for
Yes.
anybody's dollars. Now, I should explain, I should ask you, this is an RS1 single-family dwelling area. Is that
Yes.
not correct?
Yes.
Explain this floor space ratio to me.
The floor space ratio allowable is 0.6 of the site. That is, if your yard was 50 feet wide and 100 feet deep, you'd have 5,000 square feet of area. The maximum allowable developable space is then 3,000 feet, or 0.6 of that. And that means garages, anything under a porch, under roof, all is counted in the allowable space.
And what have you done? How much have you breached it by?
I'm at about 0.81 with the attic.
With the attic.
Yes.
How did your trouble come to surface?
Well, I understand there was a complaint from a neighbor when we installed these windows.
And he said, hey, they're putting in dormer windows. That means they're putting in living accommodation upstairs. That means that they're breaching the bylaw. But did you change the height of the roof at all?
No, the house was built strictly to the specifications approved by the planning department of the city.
So here you have a $320,000 house without the proper permit application. You put in an upstairs instead of a ladder, developed a bedroom and a games room and a little lounge.
Yes.
I'm right on that, am I not?
Yes.
And your father-in-law, who gets treatment, comes and you needed the elevator to get him up to his bedroom.
That's correct.
Now what lies ahead? What has the city council bureaucracy told you?
Well, they told me that they've advanced this to the legal department and they will initiate action against me.
And have they told you what the action will be? Just tell me again. If they're successful.
The only thing that I have got is a letter from Hebert in permits and license telling me to return this to its original condition of an attic.
According to the plans of your new house when you rebuilt it?
That's right.
Do you plan to do that?
I hope that that's not necessary.
Will they prosecute all the people with the illegal suites around you? Is that the same kind of offense, an illegal suite?
I'm not qualified.
Sure
I'm not qualified to comment.
But you didn't want to go down the way. You would have had to excavate the basement out 8 or 10 feet, and then you could have...
I've made provisions to do that should the city ever evolve.
Would that still have put you over this?
Yes.
So whether you used the interior space of the house or went down below, by this accommodation, you'd have been in breach of the bylaw.
That's correct.
All I can say is it seems stupid to me. Very best of luck, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you very much.
But the point, Carole Taylor, alderman in charge of the Neighbourhood Cultural and Community Services Committee at City Hall, a brand new person on the lot, does it seem stupid to you? Here's this beautiful house, he hasn't changed the roof line, he could have had an attic, he puts in a little stair, puts some guest accommodation for his in-laws. Is it stupid to you that he's facing the threat of ripping out the inside of his attic?
I'm really old-fashioned, Jack. I just happen to think we should follow the law. The law clearly states what the FSR is for a single-family neighborhood. This man had approval for plans that were within that limit. He then, after the final inspection was finished, altered the interior of his house so that he now has 35% more space, usable space in his house than any other citizen of Vancouver is allowed. I don't think that's right.
In other words, you would favor prosecution.
Yes, we actually insisted that the city staff pursue this.
And he'll have to rip out the inside of his upstairs and put it back to a naked, bare attic.
Yes, and change the windows as well.
Oh, come off it, Carol. What difference do the windows make if the accommodation isn't in there?
He was not given approval for those windows in the roof, and there are various regulations about glass facing other properties. I mean, the rest of us are all following the rules.
All right,
Most
question.
of us are trying to follow the rules, and he's going to have to.
Well, I'm going to tackle you about the hypocrisy of your views after the break.
Keep in all the good-tasting food by carefully measuring the calories in each nourishing main course and still be under 300 calories.
Alderman Carole Taylor turns thumbs down on Jim Wilson and his problem quite brutally. But at the same time, Carole, you've got the monster houses, you've got the tall, skinny, stupid houses, you've got 21,000 illegal suites, and you do the Nelson touch with a blind eye all the time unless a neighbour complains. Is that not arrant hypocrisy?
First of all, most of these problems are a result of the past couple of years' council. They let everything slide. I know of someone who got hardship on an illegal suite for their 4th house. Now, you tell me someone that owns 4 houses is in a hardship position. I don't happen to think they are. But let me say something about these monster houses that you and many, many people in this city are complaining about. Those houses are within the allowable FSR of this city.
Change it.
No, but first, they are within the limits. This house that you showed at the beginning of the show is 35% greater
He
than
went
those
from
limits.
0.6 to 0.81 or something.
He went 35% more than he was allowed. Now, if we say...
But he's not doing any harm to anybody. He hasn't changed his roof line, has he?
He hasn't changed his roof line
No.
except for the windows. And all I'm saying to you is if we're going to let him go 35% extra, can you see what those monster houses are going to become? They also will be able to be 35% greater. Now, first of all, I happen to think that we're going to have to downzone some of these things. If those monster houses are upsetting enough people in this city and they say to us, look at your zoning again, so that we make sure that the houses we're building fit into the neighborhood and that perhaps we go back to the 0.45 with the basement underground that we used to have. You can't, on the other hand, say to me, but let this one individual not only have the full FSR, but 35% more. It doesn't make sense.
What about the 21,000 illegal suites not prosecuted unless neighbours complain?
Okay, first step.
I mean, that one. If you're going to do that to this guy, you should prosecute every illegal suite zoning infraction in the city of Vancouver.
And the first step, in my mind, is that we stop them putting them in new construction. February 26th, we've got a public hearing that says to the people, do you want us to stop allowing second kitchens in new buildings? If we say yes at that point, that in effect says to people building in single-family neighborhoods from now on, this is the game. No more illegal suites. Then we have to go back and we have to look at the ones that are already there. We've started a program in Joyce Station area where we're trying to assess what the neighborhood wants. Now, in that neighborhood, there are estimates that there are between 50 and 60% illegal suites. It may be that that neighborhood says, well, actually, it's okay with us.
Okay, so we can have illegal suite come legal suites if the neighborhood and the cultural and community likes it.
It's my feeling that
So
we go
therefore,
neighborhood by neighborhood, and if you say to me overwhelmingly in your neighborhood, this is what we want, we change the laws so that they're no longer illegal. When they're illegal, we can't inspect them for fire.
And you'll have
we
a
can't-
patchwork quilt mess of the biggest order. What about all the students out at university where the eye has been closed for years and years on what's allowed?
Most of them are borders, and borders are perfectly legal.
2 borders, isn't it?
Someone said to me 4, but anyway, borders are legal. It's the full suite where you put in the kitchens and it's like a second family living there.
Your predecessors in the NDP council that let the whole thing go to hell in a handbasket.
Well, the last few years, it's just been understood that things were sliding and the hardship cases were, for the most part, being approved.
We've got time for some telephone calls to see if you're being arrogant, bureaucratic, unsympathetic, totally bloodless. You don't care this man has to rip out the inside of his house, and there's no way you're going to prosecute illegal suites except in the odd flagrant case. Right? Let's see what people say. Hope they're not nice to you. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Jack.
Yeah.
I'm a little tired of Carole Taylor sitting there with her nice
Keep it
TV
short.
channel, suggesting she's old-fashioned, and that's why she's going to prosecute this fellow. Old-fashioned, if you want to go back 100 years, we didn't have all the idiotic laws, regulations, and stupidity on your own home. If this guy's house is no larger and it just hasn't exceeded the height line, What business is it of anybody's what he does in his own home?
Okay, we've got to go along with them. We'll just let him tell you off and leave it at that. Go ahead, please.
Oh, hi, Jack. I wanted to tell you that I agree with Carole Taylor for two reasons. On the one hand, if we allow this gentleman to do that and take him on his word that it's not going to be used all the time as sleeping quarters, then we'd have to let everybody do that, and there's no way you can make sure that when they say that it's not going to be used as a suite, whether it's for rent or not, that it won't be. There's just no way you can check up all the time.
Thank you,
and make
ma'am, but this has been a growing problem for many years about the illegal suites themselves, has it not?
It has been a growing problem, and I think that what exacerbated it was the fact that hardship cases all of a sudden were allowed left and right. And
That was Granny in the basement.
well, you see, in-laws are different from unrelated family, and I think one of the things, all I've got are a whole lot of questions. I haven't
thought
got any
hardship
answers.
cases had to be relatives.
No, it can be someone who, a mother with a child perhaps, who can't afford any other accommodation.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, will Zen and Aquilini be afforded the same sort of treatment for their project on Renfrew and Hastings, which has been an eyesore in the Hastings East area for the last 6 years?
Do you know about that particular one?
I don't know. Has he exceeded the FSR, do you know?
I don't know either. Go ahead, please.
Oh, hi, Carol. I just wanted to know, if you make him clear the attic, I mean, what difference does it make if he blocks up the windows and puts in a couple of roll-away cots? I mean, it wouldn't look any different. He could still set up the same thing. I mean, the whole idea doesn't make sense. And the second point is, the people that must have complained obviously can't afford the same beautiful accommodations as he can. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure if you're suggesting that therefore we should let anyone who wants to have 35% more space in their house. If you are, then fine, we should go relook at our zoning and say that there's enough feeling that we can allow more housing. But I have to tell you that I am swamped by people saying just the opposite. They're saying that the zoning as it now stands is allowing too much. And these are just questions that we're going to put to the neighborhoods. We have no preconceived notions about what's right or wrong, but we're going to say to you, what do you think is right?
Go ahead from Victoria.
Hello, Jack. How are you? I've got a question for Carole Taylor. I used to be in the real estate business in Vancouver, and one of the biggest scams going, and I know many, many houses up it, people register a house as a single-family dwelling, turn around and then divide the whole thing into housekeeping rooms, share one kitchen, which classifies it as a single-family dwelling. That seems to go bypassed, and yet they're prosecuting this guy, and he doesn't even rent the room out. Seems a little unjustified.
There's no question that in the past there's been inequity in all of this. And the other scam that they do is they come before city planning and they say, well, this second little sink downstairs, that's just a bar sink, and this electrical, well, that's just for, plugging in this or that. Then as soon as the inspection is finished, they turn that into a full kitchen and a second family moves in. I'm not saying that there aren't all sorts of ways of getting around the rules. What I'm saying is that this particular city council wants to clarify the situation so that all of us are playing by the same rules.
Legalize them all, in other words.
Legalize the ones in the neighborhoods that want them. I can tell you Fraserview as a neighborhood does not want them. So we would have to enforce in those neighborhoods.
Can city council make up its mind for the city? Must you have all these little neighborhood
No, but
sites?
you don't want the whole city looking alike. And there may be areas that just, secondary suites is...
Go ahead, ma'am. Last call.
Yes, actually, let's not sit with our heads in the sand like ostriches. We know exactly what the whole deal is about. Falls Creek is loaded with apartments down there. They've got to rent them. Some of these people that do have illegal suites need them for their income, for their mortgages, when they bought high on the market, as Carol and all of them are aware of. Another thing is, and they need those few dollars, there's a few people on handicap that need the same situation, and they've had them for years. But what they want to do, and get this, is force them out of these places into the development on Falls Creek and the other nonsense they're going to build on the other side, where at the time they're supposed to be for low income, but they are not.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, or is that too conspiratorial?
Well, I think there were a few issues there, but one thing I have to say to you, you do realize with illegal suites, there's no fire inspection, there's no electrical inspection. These are not necessarily safe. So if we decide that they're all right, then let's, first of all, change our taxation because it's no longer a single-family house, and also make sure that they're safe for the people who move in.
But your first word and your last word is not a tear is shed by you for Mr. Wilson and his problem.
I'll tell you, I I shed a tear over the man who came before council 2 weeks ago, who is an elderly gentleman, lives in a nice little house, and he had one of these monster houses built beside him. He now gets absolutely no light. The house goes from front of the property to the back of the property and has something like 4 or 6
But you can't
entrances.
make him tear it down, can you?
I can't, because it's within the rules, so I'm saying maybe we have to look at the rules.
Good. Well, you've got a career ahead of you in this topic alone. My thanks to Carole Taylor. Next, program for Canada Pension Plan. You can draw it at 60 after the break. Doug Runchey is the Client Service Manager for Health and Welfare Canada. And I've been watching your ads that you can now draw the Canada Pension Plan early if you retire early. Give me a succinct little summary of the benefits for people.
Okay, well, under the retirement benefit, it used to be that you had to be at least 65 years of age in order to draw your Canada Pension Plan. That's now been changed. We have a flexible retirement pension plan that you can apply for as early as age 60, or you can be delay beyond age 65 until as late as age 70.
So I can quit and collect a lesser pension at 60,
right,
or I can work right through till 70, making my additional contributions and collect the largest possible pension.
That's exactly right.
Now, if I quit at 60, what scale of pension will I get?
Okay, the way it works is for every month that you retire early or draw your pension early, there's a 0.5% reduction in your benefit amount.
From the maximum?
From the maximum. Well, from your benefit, okay, your particular benefit. So if you retire as early as age 60, then you're looking at a 30% reduction.
So if I retire at 60, I get a 70% pension, which roughly would be 360 odd against 520 at the full rate.
That's right.
Now, when I get to 65, will that be increased to the full rate?
No, it'll stay at that 70% rate. There will be a yearly increase if there's an increase in the cost of living, but no percentage increase.
In other words, if I retire between 60 and 62 and get up to an 82% pension, that will be the level of my pension plus any cost of living right through till the end.
That's right.
So therefore, actuarially, it's not going to cost you much money.
It won't cost the plan any money, or at least that's what they tell us.
But the benefits will be that a man of 60 or a person of 60 who has some other income can say, okay, with my 70% pension at 60, I can get by now.
That's
so
right.
Quit.
That's right.
Now, what are the conditions? When I'm 60, if I want to retire, must I quit my full-time work?
If you want to collect the retirement benefit prior to age 65, you must quit full-time employment at least. It is allowed that you can work part-time, or you can have earnings at less than the maximum amount of the retirement benefit, which works out to approximately $6,200 a year.
Okay, if I retire again at 60, and I prove to you that I have retired, and I draw, for the sake of argument, my 70% pension, can I go back to work again, or am I precluded from working full-time again?
No, you can go back to work full-time, as long as at the time that you applied, your intentions were that you had ceased working at that time.
Is that not a big hole in the plan?
I really can't comment on that, other than you are drawing the pension at a reduced rate, so as far as it's not costing the plan any money.
So if I'm unemployed at 60 and I'm no sign of any job, I can apply for and prove that, that I have retired, not just not working.
Right.
I can't be drawing UIC, can I?
There's no problem with UIC if you've ceased employment.
And I qualify for my partial pension, 70% or up to 82%. I can then go back working full-time later on when I change my mind.
That's right. As long as it is a change of mind. It wasn't your intention at the time that you applied that you were going to do that.
That's quite useful, and as you say, actually it will level out because I'm going to draw the lesser pension until I go off to that great place in the sky. Now, any other major changes? These changes come in on the 1st of January 1987.
Right.
There's been a big rush for these benefits.
Oh, there certainly has been, yeah. Where our phone lines have been swamped, and so have our walk-in centers. There are many other changes. Some of the other big changes are on the disability benefits. The amount of the benefit is going up about $150, $160 in January. If you were receiving benefits last month, you'll notice that increase in your January benefit.
That's a straight increase.
That's a straight increase, right? It's also going to be easier to qualify for disability benefits. The number of years you must have paid in is being substantially reduced. On the
Survivor benefits?
survivors' benefits, the one major change on that side is the fact that remarriage will no longer stop your benefits if you're receiving them, and if you had them stopped previously, you can apply to have them reinstated.
What about common law or divorced or separated? It used to be if you were divorced, you could claim part of the Canada Pension Plan benefits of the employed person.
Right, yeah. There's allowed for a division of what we call unadjusted pensionable earnings, and that is now being made available on separation of a legal marriage, separation of a common law marriage, or still on divorce as well of a legal marriage.
Divorce, separated, or common law.
Right.
And premiums, of course, will go up.
Right, you will be paying more into the plan beginning this month. You should notice changes to your deductions, not very substantial.
But enough. Now, just back to the beginning again. If I'm 60, I can draw 70% of the pension.
Right.
And it will stay at that less CPI. 61, I can draw 76% of the pension.
That's right. And it doesn't change on your birth date or anything. It's a monthly rate, okay? It doesn't change when you have your 61st birthday. It doesn't change as a jump from 70 to 76%. It's a monthly change of half of 1%.
But if I apply when I'm 60, I get 70%. If I apply when I'm 61, I only get 76%.
Right.
And if I apply when I'm 62, I get 82%.
Right.
What if I'm 63 or 64?
Well, again, it's half of 1% for every month. So if you're 64 and 6 months, then you're looking at only a 3% reduction. It's a monthly basis.
And you're going to have, what, 175,000 Canadians?
That's nationally the projections that will apply for this benefit.
So we've got 20,000 in BC, I'll bet you.
Probably in that neighborhood, and I think they've all called us, or more than that have called us certainly on this.
How long does it take to get?
To get the benefit in pay, we're probably looking at, normally we're looking at about a 2 to 3 months. Because of the heavy workload, it could take a little longer than that right now.
Okay, phone calls on the new improved, presumably, Canada Pension Plan retirement pension starting at 60 after the break. These pamphlets are quite good for federal government bureaucratic pamphlets. They actually make some sense.
That's good to hear.
Go ahead to Cliff or to Doug Runchey.
Okay, to Doug. How long do you have to work before you're eligible for pension plan?
For the retirement benefit?
Yes.
Just 1 year will get you a benefit. The amount of it would be pretty small.
Yeah. Okay, and if you quit paying 4 years ago, like you, how long would you, what is the pension based on?
It's based on your average earnings, and we allow a 15% of your period not to be included in that averaging.
4 years ago?
No, that's as of today. So right now, somebody turning age 65 has approximately 3 years dropped out of their benefit for retirement.
Oh,
so if you retired
that?
Yeah.
I see. Did they do that before?
Oh yeah, that's been in existence from the beginning.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I have a very brief question. You stated that a person could earn some income, which took the pension, I believe, from the 70% up to whatever the maximum pension would be. Would that include investment income?
It's strictly earnings income that we're looking at. You can have any other sources of income and not affect your eligibility to apply.
So you could have $50,000 in investment income. It wouldn't make a bit of difference.
That's true.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm calling for a friend of mine here, and he wonders, his wife died 9 years ago, and if he can still apply for survivor's benefits. He has just applied for his pension. He's 62 now.
Yeah, there's no limitation on that.
Thank you. No limitation. Go ahead, please.
Yes, your guest said that you just have to say that you're not going to work anymore. You don't have to give any proof of this.
You have to sign a statement on your application that and you're certifying that that's true. At this point, we're not asking necessarily for any other supporting documents.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I've been separated for 16 years, and I read in the paper a few years back that if you were divorced, you could claim a certain amount of what he paid into the Canada Pension Plan.
That's correct.
He hasn't worked for a number of years now. Just being legally separated, could I still apply for that?
Well, one of the changes to the legislation allows that if you're separated, that you can apply for a division. If you've been living separate for that length of time, the only period that we're going to look at dividing is the period of time that you were living together during your marriage, though.
I see.
Thank you. Go ahead from Kelowna.
Hello, Jack and guest. On the disability pension, I have contributed for a period of 14 years, and because I have not contributed 5 of the last 10 or 2 of the last 3, I do not qualify. Now, this doesn't seem fair to me that a new person contributes for 2 years of the last 3 he qualifies, and someone that has contributed for 14 years does not qualify.
You understand it?
Yeah, and you're right, you don't qualify, and I'm not the person to complain to, though, if you don't think it's fair.
Thank you. Go ahead from Nanaimo.
Thank you, sir. I've paid into the plan for 20 years or so, and I have to pay into it another 25 years. And my neighbor, who's from England, he draws an English pension, and now he's drawing a federal pension. I'm just wondering, it doesn't seem fair to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I can give the answer to that. There is still no agreement, is there, between Britain and Canada on the payment of old age pension?
That's true, there isn't.
And that's the answer. I am technically eligible to qualify for the British old age pension, but I wouldn't. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was wondering on a disability pension, which my husband collects. Upon his death, would I receive a survivor's pension, and what is the age restriction for survivors?
You're currently receiving a disability pension, did you say?
Yes, my husband is. And upon his death, would it revert to a survivor's pension?
Yes, you would be eligible to a survivor's pension if you're over age 35 or if you're under that age and you have dependent children.
But if you have no dependent children, you don't get anything?
If you're under age 35 and have no dependent children and are not disabled yourself, you don't get anything.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Yes, how long do you have to work before you qualify for the disability pension?
As one of the earlier callers said, right now the change in the legislation says 5 out of the last 10 or 2 out of the last 3 years.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I was too quick. Too quick. What was it?
Oh, my wife was only working 7 months and then got disabled.
Yeah, unless that 7 months happened to have occurred during 2 calendar years. We're looking at, so if she had paid in for, say, 85 and 86, then she could be eligible on that basis, even though she only worked 7 months.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening, Jack. Sir, I am now about to retire, and I do so, and a year from now I go back to work and I go to a job where I start paying into the Canada Pension Plan automatically as the payroll deduction does. Would you mind telling us how that will improve my pension plan or how it will affect me? I'll go to the TV and listen. Thank you.
I could have asked a little bit more information. It depends on whether or not you're applying for your retirement benefit under the Canada Pension Plan. If you do so, and you go back to work in a year, you can't pay in anymore. If you don't apply for the benefit, then it depends on what your previous earnings were as to whether or not subsequent earnings are going to help you.
Yeah, but it's quite clear that if you take the pension at the earlier age and change your mind and go back to work, nobody will take CPP off you.
That's
or you'll
correct.
get a refund of it.
That's correct.
Seems to be obvious. Go ahead from Salmon Arm.
Hello. If an old, married couple who would both draw old age pension,
yeah,
and the man also draws Canada pension.
Yes.
Now she dies, or he dies rather. Is the widow entitled to a widow's pension?
If he paid in sufficient contributions, he must have paid in 1/3 of the years in his contributory period, and then she would be eligible.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm a federal government employee, and I just received my notification concerning our superannuation. Once I retire and I start receiving superannuation, $245 will be deducted once I start receiving Canada pension. And I'm wondering if your guest there knows anything about that agreement. It sounds like I'm subsidizing the Canada pension.
No, not at all. What happens is when you retire and prior to receiving the Canada pension, you receive a higher amount than you would have otherwise.
Really? Didn't
Yeah.
look that way on the figures at our office.
Yeah.
Is there some place I can check into that?
With your personnel department.
That's a good. So go ahead, please.
Yes, hi. I'm collecting a disability pension from the Compensation Board, and I'd like to know if I collect a disability pension from the Canada Pension Plan.
If you're eligible, you can definitely collect ours. It may have an impact on your other one.
Thank you. Go ahead from Vernon.
Hello, my husband's on a war veterans allowance, and if I was to qualify for the Canada pension, would my amount be deducted from my husband's war veterans allowance?
Jack's shaking his head. I don't know the answer to that one. You'd have to contact them.
War veterans' allowances are generally pretty untouchable, but I don't know the answer. You have to contact them. Go ahead, please.
Hello, yes. At age 62, you get 82% of your Canada pension, right?
Right.
And then you said when you're 65, you still get just the 82%?
That's correct.
Because in the paper the other night it said here, at 65 you get the full 100%.
If you begin drawing it at age 65, but if you draw it early, then you get paid at the lower rate for the rest of your
Okay, let me
life.
summarize that. At 65, you draw the normal full entitlement if you've got the proper contributions for the CPP.
Right.
You may now, however, continue to work making further contributions until 70, at which time it will reach a new maximum payment.
Right.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
Right.
Between 60 and 62, if you go for the earlier pension, that will be the level of pension which you will get through to the end of your time.
Right, between 60 and 65. And
Excellent. Let's put up the number for you. Not that you're not getting enough phone numbers, but 666-3040.
Right.
Or toll free 1-800-387-8600. You've been very informative, Mr. Runchey, Client Service Manager of Canadian Health and Welfare League. I wish I could say that about my next guest. Cold turkey, be damned. After the break. I'm not going to light it.
Laughing.
Does she want it? Yes or no before I light it?
Do you want it, yes or no? Sure, yeah. Could you tuck right up to the counter?
Yep. It's got to be smoky. You've got to be able to see the smoke. Well, what do you got to say for yourself?
Look at that, Jack. That's disgusting. Isn't that horrible? You know, the smoke that you breathe out of this end here is probably more healthy than the smoke that I'm breathing out of this end here. At least you've got the benefit of a filter at that end.
This,
Why don't you just stub it out and we'll talk seriously?
Well, no, I put it out to demonstrate the effects, not because I would smoke the cigarette.
Of course not.
To demonstrate the disgusting effects of second-hand smoke, and hoping you'd threaten me with a lawsuit, because you are the man, Geoff Rolands, Burrard Health Unit in Vancouver, who wrote this Hitlerian non-smoking bylaw. Is that not a fact?
That is a fact.
All right, now, let me be the first to plead guilty to the fact that I am still a smoker. I hate myself. I'm disgusted. Everybody else hates me. People who kiss me tell me it's like licking a dirty ashtray. I've used that crack every year for years. But I don't believe a word you say, really, about second-hand smoke.
No.
There have been no studies in Canada on the effects of second-hand smoke on other people's health.
Okay, there are over 50,000 studies now on the link between smoking or cigarette smoke and the effect on the individual who smokes.
Agreed. It's stupid.
It's silly. Now, there are fewer than 50,000, it's probably still in the hundreds, about the link between the smoke from the other end of the cigarette and the people around you that have to suffer that. But bearing in mind what I've just said about your end of the cigarette having a filter on it, the rest of us are suffering unfiltered smoke, and we know it's got 60 carcinogenic substances in it, cancer-causing substances in it, and 3,800 chemicals, and we don't know what they do when they all get mixed together.
Isn't it amazing I'm still alive?
Yeah, but you're
Why do you think that is?
You're different. You're
No, I'm
special.
not different. I'm stupid. Now, I want to get down to the smoking bylaw. Is Vancouver the first place to use these tactics in total?
These Hitlerian tactics? No, there are over 50 cities in Canada, 40 states in the US that have got bylaws about smoking and second-hand smoke in public places. Vancouver was the first municipality to deal with the workplace. And we did that for a specific reason, for a number of reasons, one of which was a market research study that was in 1983. And it was a very big sample. It was done by a private firm for the health department. And there were two things that surprised us. One was that 74% of the adults were non-smokers. So a very significant majority were non-smokers, and that's progress.
Well, same around here.
Right. But the other thing that surprised us was that between 80 and 90%, I think it was 84%, of those people who were polled wanted regulations in public places and in the workplace. And even 60% of the smokers favoured regulations because they want to know what the rules are. They don't want to do damage to other people. If they know what the hazards are and they choose to smoke and risk their own lives, that's their business, it's your business, and you can get on with it. But if you're risking my life, then I should have something to say about it.
All right, what are the draconian penalties that can happen to people who are unlucky enough to live in the depressed city of Vancouver and face this no smoking bylaw caper?
Right, you're lucky. You sit in Burnaby here.
So far, we're still safe.
Okay.
They haven't crossed the border with their pants subdivisions yet.
No. Although the bylaw has been replicated or virtually replicated in a number of other cities.
Replicated.
Okay.
Copied.
Okay.
Copied.
It's part of the health bylaw. It's an addition to the health bylaw. That bylaw deals with numerous things, from dogs fouling the pavement through to unsatisfactory pasteurization of milk and cheese. So it's part of that bylaw, and the penalties are part of that bylaw, and they go from a minimum of $50 to a maximum of $2,000 plus $50 per day for a continuing offence. Even you can't afford that.
In other words, it's not a criminal offence.
No, it's
not yet a while it isn't a criminal offence.
It's a bylaw. It requires people to complain. And then we put in place a process that is not simply a question of going out and prosecuting people. Our health inspectors talk to the owners, the proprietors of firms, to try and get them to reach some sort of arrangement that is satisfactory to the non-smokers and to smokers.
If I'm a businessman in Vancouver and I have a workplace, I must follow this bylaw.
You must.
In other words, I must prevent smoking in some part of my plant.
No, there are 3 options for workplaces.
No, you tell me.
There are 3 options. It's not meant to push anybody in any one given direction. There are 3 directions. One is, and clearly the easiest, is to declare a workplace non-smoking. The second is to separate smoking and non-smoking areas. But the third is to remain a completely smoking workplace. If a workplace has got 6 employees and they all smoke...
If there are half a dozen people running an illegal bookie shop downtown somewhere and they all smoke, you're happy to leave them all smoke.
Right, that's right.
And even if I'm employed in that undesirable establishment, who knows, it might be some other place of other activities, nobody can do anything about it.
No, if you're a non-smoker employed in that, if you're a smoker, that's fine. That's what the arrangement that applies there. If you're a non-smoker and you're being involuntarily exposed to second-hand smoke, then you can come talk to
There's got to be an agreement. You've got to complain and lose your job for some other reason.
No, we've now dealt with 300 complaints since the 1st of December, and almost all of them have reached resolution by simple discussion and education.
Nobody's been hit over the head with an empty cigarette ashtrays.
Jack, next to Expo, this has to be one of the most popular things that happened in Vancouver in 1986. We've taken over 7,000 telephone calls. Less than 25 people have voiced opposition to the bylaw. They may all phone now, but less than 25 have voiced opposition to the bylaw. The remainder have been very supportive.
So my 3 options are: 1, totally non-smoking, and I fire anybody who doesn't want to live with it.
No. Yeah, there are lots of other sanctions.
Any union agreements run into it yet?
There was one firm that was having a problem with the union agreement, but even that's been ironed out.
Okay, the other one is smoking, and you've got to supply smoking areas in that first one?
You don't have to supply. There's no...
In the second one, you have smoking areas, and the third area, you can all smoke if you want.
That's right.
No prosecution yet?
No.
Have you any butt-end spies who go around seeing if people are putting... smoking secretly?
There are people at both ends of the spectrum. There are those rabid smokers and there are those rabid anti-smokers. But the vast majority of people fall in the middle there. They're nice people.
You find it difficult in England because they regard all snoops as little Hitlers.
Well, why do you think I left England?
You're another snoop and a little Hitler. Have we got a few calls we can take quickly? I just want to know. I mean, I'm against smoking too. I want to stop tomorrow. And tell him if you like him or you think he's a fink. You gotta like him. Go ahead, please.
Well, what I would like to know is I work for Canada Post, and I understand...
Nobody works for Canada Post.
Well, thank you.
Carry on.
Pay my wages?
No, you do half the work.
Everybody does.
Half the work that they do in Seattle.
However, may I get back to this? I work for Canada Post, and I'm told because it is a government building...
It's not covered.
I beg your pardon?
It's not covered.
You mean everybody can smoke in your face?
Just a minute. Government building. Have you any jurisdiction over federal government
Over
buildings?
provincial government buildings, we think yes. Over federal government buildings, there may be a legal technicality, but in fact, in the next few months, we should see most federal government buildings also adhering to this sort of bylaw.
Can always go to the Supreme Court of Canada under the Charter of Rights with every other two-bit decision. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Jack, I was just wondering if you'd had a chance to read today's Vancouver Sun. There's an article in it, a firm in Chicago is actually banning smoking altogether for its employees.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Oh?
Yes.
I would like to say thank you for the bylaw. And I want to know when there's going to be a bylaw against perfume and aftershave lotion.
Oh, thank you very much, because that leads to problems in the office. Sometimes makes you want to throw up. Just a minute. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi, I think the bylaw is terrific. I have one question. I walked into a public building on the weekend that's had big no smoking signs all over the place, and the fellow in front of me had a cigarette in his hand. So I told him, butt out, and he said, call the police. I mean, what do we do about having this thing enforced?
That's a real issue. We don't expect people to go around confronting lots of other people. The fact of the matter is, when we looked across the US and in Canada, if the sign is there, 99% of smokers take notice.
Jeffrey, congratulations on the work of you and your fellow bureaucrats and aldermanic support, and I admire you and love you dearly, and I know you're right. It's just...
But cold turkey day tomorrow.
Yeah. Next, who am I going to talk to? Oh, it's some nice people after the break. Do the introduction.
Evelyn.
Eileen Podnowski.
It's Evelyn, chairman.
Find somewhere that's away from your pins here.
Evelyn LaRose.
Where the hell did you get that name? Tull, T-U-L-L?
Yes.
First time I've ever seen that name.
Oh, really? It's Scottish.
It's kind of familiar.
From the Isle of Skye.
Yeah. Who are you? One eye. And then you're going to introduce.
Pardon me?
What have we got for this?
Yeah, no, my kind
Many years we've been doing this. No, have I been doing this plug? We'll make it 10.
Great.
For almost 10 years now, I've been going through this little routine every year for what organization?
The Vernon Winter Carnival Society.
Who are you?
I'm the chairman, Evelyn LaRose Tull.
And who is this gorgeous woman?
This
I'm
is
Tammy Roseman, and I'm Queen Silver Star Queen at the Carnival.
When were you crowned, Tammy?
Last year, February 6th, the night of Carnival when it started.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
18. Still at school or at college?
No, I'm working right now to go to university next year.
Next year. But
Yes.
do you hand over your crown soon?
Yes, I do, February 6th.
Who are you? Who is he, actually?
That's Jopo, the spirit of Carnival.
All right, when does the thing start?
Carnival starts February 6th and goes for 10 days to the 15th.
February 6th.
10 super days. It's a Friday.
What's the highlight of the whole thing? What do you do at the carnival? You're the highlight of the whole thing. What do you do at the carnival?
I attend all of the events.
And
And,
you have to make little speeches.
yes, I do. A
We have
few.
Little Miss Winter Carnival. What else do we have up
That's
there?
right. We have so many things, Jack. One day you have to come up and be our honored guest. We have things from 3 to 93. We have family events, adult events, teen events. We have winter breakout for the senior citizens. Everything is fun and frolic.
I
And that's
see
what Vernon is known for.
I see a couple of beauties here. I see mixed dart tournament,
Mixed darts, that's right.
snow volleyball tournament,
That's right.
pro auto racing on ice. Where do you do that?
Swan Lake.
Swan
It's
Lake.
great fun.
How fast can they go on that?
They go really fast. I bet you they go up to 100 kilometers an hour on the ice.
Chevrolet hot air balloon, you're going to have that this year?
That's right. It's going to give free rides to anybody who wants them.
Snowmobile. How's the weather, by the way, this year for the
Great.
carnival?
Excellent.
Our theme is summer in February, and that's what we're going to have.
Well, how can you have a winter carnival if you don't have any snow in February?
Oh no, we have the snow on the mountains, and we have the good weather in Vernon. And that's
what
why
are these things you've got there?
I've brought this. The blue signifies the blue of Carnival and the blue lakes.
give
The
it
white
to
is the snow.
Oh, okay, here you go.
Stick it in. Oh, you can't stick
I
it
can't
anywhere.
stick it in your pocket.
Okay.
There, that
Looks
these
beautiful.
Oh, beautiful perfume. It's just absolutely gorgeous. What else you got?
And we have this to keep you warm when you're sailing and when you're looking after your sheep on Salt Spring.
Not bad.
Oh, you look gorgeous.
I'll give them to wee Bobby, a
Looks
wee
great.
Lindsay, a wee Beth Margaret. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you,
Tammy
Jack.
Rossman, you're finishing a successful year. Jopo, you haven't opened your mouth all night except to look stupid. And you, Evelyn, isn't it?
Yes.
Le Rose Towel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack.
And I'll be back tomorrow with Webster, and guess what? Time 5 p.m. precisely.